Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our July 21st council meeting. Please rise to the Pledge of Allegiance. Roll call.
Mr. Oja?
Here.
Mr. Menegini?
Here.
Dr. Hayes?
Here.
Mr. Gottstein?
Here.
Mr. Ball?
Here. Approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of July 7th. Any additions or corrections?
Make a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting on July 7th, 2014.
Support.
Motion made by Dr. Hayes, supported by Lee. Roll call.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Ball?
Yep.
Mr. Oja?
Yes. Approval manifest 2014-14 in the amount of $563,650.11. Dr. Hayes.
No questions.
Lee.
I got one little thing here. Under page 1, mayor council elections, Beck land deed correction fee. It's hardly anything, but what's that about?
That was, Jay, do you want to?
Yeah, I can do that. There was just an error in the way the description was written. It said 10 feet instead of 100. So we corrected it and just filed it, paid the $14 filing fee. And so I'm just asking for reimbursement.
Okay, and the only other thing, I'd just like to make a little comment here to let you know where our money is going. We spent over $32,750 for health insurance this month. That's all I have.
Hey, Chris.
Just one question under page 13, underwater. Johnson Controls well sensor, was that a maintenance issue? Or was it something new that was added?
The sensor went bad. Johnson Controls had to come out. Lightning had got in and took the sensor out.
Which wouldn't have been covered under
And
warranty, because they just put that in.
Insurance, we got a $500,000 deductible, so.
Was that one of the new ones they just put in?
Yes.
It was.
That's correct.
That's all I have.
George.
On page 1, first article, Mayor Council election, 559, Central Upper Peninsula membership dues. Is this something we prescribe to, I'm assuming, but what?
Yeah, we're a member of QPAD. We've been a member
that's
for a long
QPAD?
time. That's QPAD,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Page 5. Right down on the bottom, final payment of City Hall lock system for $1,300. Fire hall ladder. It cost that much to change them locks?
What they did was they went to a electronic card reading system. So they installed a whole new system in. That was half the payment. Ambulance did put money toward the system too. I believe they paid half toward it. And it's completely changing the system from the just lock and key to now the ID card that kind of scans and lets people in. That way you can more easily control it. If somebody leaves the squad or leaves the fire department, you can just deactivate the key. You don't have keys floating around. Or if somebody loses theirs, they can be given a new one and you don't have to worry about an extra key to the fire hall floating around.
Yeah. It's 6. On the bottom of the first column, that's $6,000 for Waseda and Brightingtown mapping. On Coleman Engineering, Ray, could you kind of clarify that a little bit?
Yeah, that was the proposal that was brought before council a few months ago, one by Waseda and the other by Brighton Township, where they were going to pay for adding on to our GIS system.
What is this your money from? Is this what we're paying?
Yeah, it's our contract, so we pay Coleman,
Okay.
and then we get reimbursed from both
Okay,
Waseda and...
basically, that was my question.
Yeah, and then over that three-year contract, we actually save quite a bit of money.
Yeah, I knew that, how we were involved in it, but I didn't quite understand why we were paying the bills on it. Page 7. Way down on the bottom, the $2,100 for income assistant, low-income heating assistance. Now, that's our first payment for this year or for last year?
That would be for June, right?
For the June utility bills that went out in July.
Yeah.
Of last year, Mary, because Ray had mentioned that every year they recalculate it. I'm just wondering where we're standing in there. Is that right, Ray, or no?
Yeah, on July 1st, or we had to submit by July 1st, and then the Public Service Commission finds out how many are in, and then they have a budget, and then they recalculate it. The maximum is 99 cents.
This is for June of this year.
Yeah, this is the past one. yeah.
Past year, we didn't go on for the next year yet.
Right.
Okay, 9. I noticed a number of places, maybe Mary or Ray, either one of you, is that there's 6 employees for DOT lab and drug screening. I see there's $100 here, about 3/4 of the way down. I noticed that in here a couple, 2, 3 places, Joe. Do we have to pay that for every, I see there's 6 employees on here. Could you explain
Yeah.
that a little bit?
What happens, George, is because they carry CDL licenses,
Yeah.
they're in that random drug screening. So we don't get to pick who goes or anything. We
Right.
just get a call saying, you need to send these people. And in this paying period, there just happened to be 6 that were sent.
So, what was that total bill? I know I've seen it I picked that number there, Joe, but I know it's in here a couple times. So is this $100 per person, or is it, I didn't circle
I don't know,
every,
Well, we'll have to pull a bill
Yeah.
unless Tricia knows.
We had the new employees too, the part-timers and the permanent part-time, they all were sent for drug screening. Then we had the one in the electric department, so that's 4 right there.
Yeah.
well, my point, Trish, I see it in here a number of times. I mean, this is the only one,
It
after I
would've
seen
been
it a
in
couple times, I
refuse.
said, geez, how much
Refuse
do you, what
would've
was
had-
the, the
Yeah.
charge on it?
Public Works would've had one, refuse would've had one, electric would've had one. But we can get the bill for you if you'd like, so you can see it.
Oh, and then, the $1,200, just a few lines below that, Joe, service call for Unit 1 on hydraulics is, are we having problems here already? I hope not.
There was a hydraulic solenoid valve. The solenoid burned up on it, and the gates wouldn't operate.
Do we have a diagram on that from Kaiser?
We have some diagrams on Kaiser, yes, we do.
I mean, would you be able to figure this out, or anybody with some mechanical?
We did change the solenoid out ourselves. We have spares. We went in and changed it out. We bled the system, and we still could not get it to operate, like it was airlocked or something.
Okay,
And so then I called the KR West hydraulic people and had them come down. And our guys got trained on how to replace those valves so they can be replaced properly and all that stuff.
where did this company have to come from?
They're from the Wausau area.
Okay, that's quite a service bill just for, for one little valve. And 10, page 10. Up on the top, right up on the top, that 4 gallons, 5 gallons, and 1 gallon of paint and paint thinner, is that for Marion Park, or why is it
No.
from the electric fan?
That's staining the cabin. The cabin that's at the hydro, the maintenance on the
Okay.
cabin, we stained that this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Our own guys?
Yes, our own
Oh.
guys.
Fine, Joe,
Yep.
fine. Okay, and then the last one down in that same column, Joe, panel board a hydro substation for 800.
Yes, that is a DC circuit breaker panel for in the hydro substation control house. Here over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be finally completing this redundant circuit we've been talking about for about 6 years. And this is part of that project. It's all monies that were budgeted for in the budget to do that.
Okay, that's all I have, Jeremy.
I only had one that was on page 3 in garbage. Rain suits for garbage truck workers, $356. How many rain suits did we buy for $350 plus?
I personally didn't buy any. I'll have to check on that.
Okay.
I don't know. 2 sets?
I think it was 2 jackets and 2 pairs of pants. We can look for sure.
At that price, it's gonna be pretty high quality.
I think they are, I think they're the high vis,
Okay,
but we can look at the invoice.
okay. Does anyone from the audience have any questions on the manifest? Okay, seeing none, we need approval, manifest 2014-14.
I'll make a motion, we approve manifest 2014-14 in the amount of $563,650.11.
Support.
Motion made by Chris, supported by George. Roll call.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Ball?
Yes,
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Does anyone from the audience wish to address the council on the minutes manifest or any agenda item? If you do, please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. There'll be a further time for comment on any subject at the end of the meeting. Okay, moving into appointments and presentations this evening. We have a reappointment to the Dickinson County Construction Code. Currently, I'm representing the council on that board, and we need to recommend to the Dickinson County Board of Commissioners who we want our representative to be. I'm willing to stay on as that rep unless one of the other council members wants to take that board.
I'll make a motion that Jeremy Oja be appointed as the city's representative to the Dickinson County Code Construction Commission.
Support.
Motion made by Chris, supported by Lee. Roll call.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Ball?
yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Going into the communications this evening, we have 5 things on the agenda. The first one on the agenda is the approval, Sturgeon Falls Hydroelectric Facility, 5-year concrete restoration plan, Terenzo Creations and renewal. I believe we have representatives from the company here who wish to present, do a presentation for the company, please.
I think that you all got a copy of a fairly light sketch of what we're proposing. That we went over. Did everybody get that earlier with their?
Yeah, they would have been in the packet.
Okay, and then there's also a folder there. And just give you a little history of what's gone on. First of all, you know, a lot of you guys know me and knew my dad. And TCR is somewhat of an extension from Ron Halson's son, who's been doing concrete restoration for 40 years. And TCR, and Mike Vigris is the owner here in Norway. We're a Norway company on the corner of Saginaw and Ford. And for the last nearly 30 years, we've been working with the city of Marquette, doing the same type thing as what we're proposing here. We've been talking to Mr. Pickard for the last almost 3 years, and as well as Mr. Anderson, some of that, and starting to assess the needs at the hydro plant. You know, we've started to develop a priority list, which is in the packet that you should have gotten, I think, with your stuff for the meeting and then what I put together. Within that priority, that'd be a kind of a living, changing document as your needs are. But when you see the pictures in the projections will match up with with the 5-year plan. But I just wanted to make it clear that a lot of this, you know, a lot of the damage that's there hasn't happened in the last 5, 10, 20 years. Some of this concrete is original concrete that's never been touched over 100 and almost 10 years now. So there's a lot of damage that's grown over this time. And I know that the last several years you put a lot of money into the turbine system, into the transmission system around town. And originally Mr. Pickard asked us to come out and look at some wing walls that I believe were cited and recommended for some repair by a FERC inspection, and that's how this whole thing got started. What we're looking at doing is that we did with Marquette, is develop an ongoing plan where there'll be budgeted monies each year, prioritize what the things are that need to be brought up to speed with what we know is there, what you know is there, and then to go from there into either what your FERC inspection recommends needs fixing, or things that start to fall apart. And concrete is on a pretty fast curve when it starts to go, and you'll see some of this in here. As concrete starts to deteriorate, as you get a freeze thaw and you get other damage with it, it starts going downhill quickly, and you'll see some in the pictures that we did that we've brought today. So also in your packet that I gave was a letter from a gentleman by the name of Rob Turpinning out of Marquette Board of Light and Power. And over the years, the 30 years almost that we've worked with them, we worked with 4 managers of their hydro systems. They're the largest municipal hydro system in the UP. And Rob Turpinning has been the latest that he just retired, but there's a letter recommendation from him and explains why he felt it was advantageous for the city of Marquette to use our services instead of every year looking, okay, we got a scope, we bid it out and go that way. So I take you for a quick overview of what we're looking at, and you've got it in front of you, but here's just, you know, again, we know that you put money into the rest of the system a lot. You can see here over 110 years, this is actually, it's hard to tell here with the lighting, but the stuff under the lettering here, I don't know what I did with that, you brought me a pointer, okay. That'd be great, thank you. But you can see here, this original concrete here had a smooth contour to it, I'm sure, and this is covered with some slime now. But there's over 100 years of deterioration, most of this is new. Over here you can see, once water is getting into these areas and your freeze-thaw process is going on, the concrete, it's just a hydraulic pump in there every year blowing this apart. Go ahead, Aaron. So the first year that we've put together for this year, working with Mr. Pickard and crawling around on the face of the dams and around is the west side, the west powerhouse, the lower face here is severely deteriorated and actually has some trees growing out of it, and you'll see, go ahead, Aaron. These cracks here, actually a lot of it is rebar showing and cracks, and once that rebar starts expanding, you've got some major problems because it's literally blowing that, you know, as steel expands with rust, it's literally blow that concrete off. I was going to show this, it's very similar, but here, some of this concrete, and this is south facing, so you can get more, you have a constant flow of water here in the winter because it doesn't freeze below, so you have water getting into these cracks, get a real cold night, freezes, thaws out the next morning in the sun, and just continually have a hydraulic problem there. So some of this concrete, this tree's growing out, there's another one right over there you can see growing out of the concrete here. Some of this concrete you can literally pull out with your hand. I mean, structurally, I don't think you're worried about this powerhouse falling down, but it does need to be fixed. Okay, go ahead. 2015, this is a poor picture from the satellite photo. This is on the spillway structure on the west side. The wing wall, this is what we originally looked at because it was brought up by, I think in FERC inspection originally, something needed to be done. Go ahead, Aaron, you can see these were actually skim coated, cleaned and skim coated the ends and the faces back in the mid-1990s by Kaiser. But as you'll see, go ahead, Aaron, This is all water seeping through and also freeze thaw. And if you tap anywhere on this, some of the edges above it wasn't so bad. Tap anywhere on this, you can hear it hollow. There's nothing holding that face on there anymore. So this is the second year, go ahead. The second year that, to meet what FERC recommended as far as the needs of this, okay?
Go back up a slide. Point out the little fountain coming out of the water.
Oh, you can kind of see it here. This is it here too. This, and I think we're actually fixing this year along with the Tanner Gate job. And in the projected into the 4th and 5th years is the actual face, you'll see this. But this here, and you can't see it so well here, but in the winter you can really tell if anybody's been down there. And there's actually a spout of water coming through the face of the dam from the back and spraying, sometimes up 5 to 8 feet. And there's a big ice chunk there in the winter. So along with the Tanner Gate this year, which will start shortly, the other job that we did earlier in the year, or got approved earlier in the year, we're going to work on fixing the worst of the leak there as well. So it takes care of that off your hands. So go ahead. Again, I showed this beginning. This is just more of the damage in the wing walls that are really starting to crumble and chunks fall off of it. So, okay. 2016, what we're projecting is the same, the west powerhouse that we're looking at projecting to work on this year. The wing walls, again, go ahead, Aaron, on the west side of this are in the same kind of condition as the other wing walls. Again, a lot of this is 100-year-old concrete that hasn't really been touched in 100, 110 years. So it's not unlike the dams built on the Dead River, the hoist, the McClure, the two for the Marquette Border Light and Power, is that it, Mike? That we've worked on for 30 years. It's got a lot of damage, but it's not unlike those others that were out there. Now, we've been working on those for 30 years, and they maintain. In 5 years, you shouldn't expect to have a brand new dam, but you should be able to start getting it up to the point where it's an ongoing maintenance thing instead of major. You could take all this in 1 year if you brought a lot of guys in, but you'd probably look at, over $1 million in 1 year to go in and bring it back to where it needed to be. Okay. That's just another spot on the wing wall. You can see literally blowing off the side. Okay. This is another one there. Okay. And then 2017 and 2018, in your letter that I put in, as well as some of the other stuff, this is an ongoing changing thing. But if we get to all that other done and brought up to speed, then the plan would be to go to the faces of the west structure with the spillways and fix the rest of those leaks, the one we looked at that we're going to fix this year, as well as the contour, the cracks that are continually expanding and blowing apart. Okay, you can see in here. That one, I think this whiter right there, I think is that leak spraying out. Okay. Yeah, that's just more. Here you can see the concrete deterioration. And again, when you go over the hump on the deterioration, the life of the concrete, it starts to go quickly because of that, the water infiltration freeze off. I think that's it. Go ahead. See yeah. So what we're proposing, and I've spent a lot of time with Ray and Joe both on, is that this would be an ongoing process, more of a partnership, where it would have to be there'd be an ongoing communication throughout the year. The benefit of this is, one of the benefits too, is we would do an ongoing inspection with your people to look at what needs to be done, what the concerns are. If there's a major construction architectural issue, then an engineer would have to be brought in. Most of this is concrete repair. It's nothing major architectural on it. So it'd be an ongoing communication is the main thing as we're getting into things. So Joe sees it. If there's a concern and if you guys have questions, we'd be back in here and keep communicating. If there's, our office is 5 blocks from here, and I live here, so I got to walk up and down the street. So, we're here to serve the community at that point.
Dean, what basically are you doing? Are you just going to say jackhammer all that loose cement off?
All the bad stuff has to come off, and some of these might be able to tell you a little better. Mike came to you guys when we did the Tanner Gate. I don't think you were here for the meeting, George, but basically removing the bad concrete, and then either shotcreting or forming and pouring back new concrete, stopping the leaks behind it. Now some we looked at probably have to have some bleeders through instead of, because some of the leaks are bad enough where the cost to fixing the leak is going to be a lot higher, not going to be any more than put a bleeder through and let the water go out as opposed to soaking into the concrete.
Okay, that one leak that you mentioned on one of the gates there, what, are you gonna try to go upstream and try to plug that from upstream?
No, the
side,
best
or-
way to do that, we'll find the leak, I believe, from the downstream side, go in, and then inject it back through, so it goes back through. So, unless, I mean, that's the plan. The best way to do that is to come from the downstream side, from the dry side, and then go back through. You get better fix that way. Doesn't seem like it, but you do. And that would probably be done with the leak would probably be stopped with a chemical injection, which would be an expanding urethane to go back into there.
Okay, that's all I have.
Any other questions?
You kept mentioning 110 years, that some of this concrete, so is the warranty gonna be for another 110 then?
I won't be here. These guys are younger than I am, right? So. But I will say this. You know, we did a year and a half ago, I think we did those interior walls that were leaking really badly inside. And there's been one little patch for some reason that won't quite take what we want. I think we've been back 3 times, and I think it's stopped now. But you know, the warranty's not going to be 110 years. You're not going to care anyhow. But we're going to make it right. You know, if there's something we do that fails in a reasonable amount of time, we're going to, you know, like I said, I got to walk up the street. So.
Now, are you gonna be able to get all the concrete right down to the base rock, or will some of this
Don't need
concrete
to.
still
A
be
lot of it's
under?
going to be solid. A lot, you know, the wet concrete the hydrated concrete is better than sitting dry. So a lot of that is,
Oh,
you know,
so
not
where
all the
where
concrete's bad.
the cement is bound by supposedly re-rods to
There's going to be a lot of most
the
of
granite,
concrete's
whatever's
good.
there, that's,
Right. Yeah, hopefully it'll go. It's going to. Your budget figures won't work if we got to go to bedrock on everything. We'll guarantee it, but it won't happen. So.
Joe, is this in the budget?
Yes, I want to speak a little bit on that.
Any other?
What I'd like to do is, the reason I put this proposal together is because I didn't, from an operational standpoint and a financial standpoint, I didn't foresee the need to go out with some big project and go get a $2 million bond and have another payment. And in talking with these folks, we felt it was something that we could address every single year, have a little bit of money set aside every year. The budget that you approved July 1 for the next 5 years, in that budget is $80,000 in capital concrete improvement for the hydro dam, and the budget is balanced every year. So that is why I'm asking you to consider this type of a process. I know it's something that we really haven't done before. Usually we just get a big project and get it done. But because of the financials of it and the way that it worked with Marquette, in talking with those folks, it was a win-win for them. And they did a little bit over time, and eventually they caught up, and their dams are in really good shape. So I wanted to pretty much model the same type of situation here.
and some of these were recommended by FERC, right? I believe you
Yeah,
had said that.
that's correct. Every year we get a FERC inspection, and they address issues that need to be taken care of. And I have more issues that I know of that I don't point out for reasons. But if I can head those off before they get noticed by FERC would be a good thing.
I would quickly say, if I can, that having a plan in front of FERC makes a big difference, because if they see issues, but it's planned repair, it's not a big deal. If it's not planned, then that's when, you know, we worked through the FERC inspections for 30 years.
So you're not gonna have a brand-new dam in 5 years, but I think we're gonna start a process here with TCR that will live beyond my working career here too, with fixing your dam and making sure it's good for as many years as the generating equipment's good for.
Dean, with this, just so we have it up to date, this quote says it's valid through February 13th, or is it still the valid quote now?
Yeah, that's his job. Yeah, I might have been the wrong one. Yeah, there is one other small correction on, that may be a difference. The years are switched on the other stuff, but yeah,
there's any questions of me about why I'm doing this? Okay.
What is the total bid?
$400,000. It's $80,000 a year for 5 years.
Yeah.
Will the electricity be compromised in any way, or production?
No.
Okay, any other questions? If not, I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion that Terrazzo Creations and and Renewal, TCR, be approved for a 5-year concrete restoration project for a price not to exceed $80,000 per year, or a total of $400,000 for the 5 years.
Second.
Motion made by Lee, supported by Chris. Roll call.
Mr. Ball?
Yep.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gotstein?
Yes.
Okay, next on the agenda, approval, Electric Department miscellaneous engineering services contract, Krause Power and Engineering. Joe?
This is an annual approval that I ask for Krause Power Engineering. It's a miscellaneous service contract. We always approve $7,000. We've never spent the full $7,000. It usually comes in at around $2,500 to $3,000. Throughout the year, jobs come up that I need some engineering expertise on that I can't do, and I call on Dave to take care of it. Or if there's a problem in the system that is a little more than my capabilities, Dave will come over and take care of it. And so that's what this miscellaneous service contract is, just to cover those incidental things that kind of pop up throughout the year. So,
Do you know how much of that budget we used last year, Joe?
yes, $2,500.
Okay, any other questions or comments? George, anything?
Joe, when you present these bills, is there a way, and probably you, I don't know, when you present to the council for payment on some of the stuff, that you could earmark this previously approved?
Yeah, I'll just have to write on the invoice, and then if there's enough on the line, because
The reason why I'm saying this
Yeah.
is because it seems when you come up for payment, I get kind of confused. I mean, I know we always ask
Yeah.
all the time, is this a budgeted item? Yes, it
Right.
is. But, okay, previously, referred back to this, and this is how much we use, and this is how much we got
Right.
left.
And I understand what you're asking, because there's still some project work, budgeted project work that gets billed off of it too, and then miscellaneous contract stuff. So if I just tell Lisa to put in a description miscellaneous contract, or abbreviate it if we can fit it, that way it'll
KPE
identify it.
miss.
I
Yeah.
think it would just make it easier for the
Okay.
council to understand.
'Cause usually you
Yeah, this-
ask,
This
you know.
is pre-approved, then basically
Yeah.
it probably shouldn't even be coming from the council, if it would be kind of confusing, but I don't
No,
it was just
I
an
just,
idea. thought
I just have to have Lisa make sure that she puts it down, that's all,
Yeah.
George.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, if it's a
Yeah.
KPE miss,
Yeah.
you'll know it's for that miscellaneous.
Okay, that's fine, I can do that.
Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion that KPE be approved to perform miscellaneous engineering services for a price not to exceed $7,000.
Support.
Motion made by Chris, supported by George. Roll call.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gotstein?
Yes.
Mr. Ball?
Yes.
Approval stipulation agreement, Norway Lodging Group. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Stipulation agreement is something that our city assessor has been working on for the better part of 6 weeks. We received a request and an appeal from Norway Lodging Group on their taxable value on their property. And this kind of falls in line with what's been happening with the big bucks. If you've heard that news coming out over this past year on the appeals. And so this is something that there's a stipulation agreement that we're putting in front of council to approve. They already had their appraisal done, and looks like this is going to move forward. I know that Jim has worked with Jay's office. I don't know, Jay, if you have any additional comments on this?
Ray, could I ask a question? Don't you think it would be smart if we waited on this until we see the results on Brighton Township with that?
Well, this isn't directly tied to Brighton Township. There's actually, because that's a different classification of property, there have been some rulings already on lodging, on hotels. But again, Jay, do you have any comment on this?
Yeah, what we did, I talked to Jim and the Sanderson and Company. Went down and had this appraised, and I know Jim Schultz, the appraiser, I've used him a number of times over the years. He's very good, very thorough. And if you look at this appraisal and take the time to read it over, there really is merit to the claim. Now, the state of Michigan has been regularly allowing these people to come in and make this argument, and they have been successful. Jim Weissman indicates in his memo that big box stores like Home Depot and Lowe's have successfully been making these challenges, and other businesses are following suit, and now the hotels are getting into it. Okay, and what they're doing is they're saying, look at your taxing is too high a rate. So what they did is they came in and they lined up their ducks in a row, and they brought it to them. And I think that Jim and I discussed it, and we looked it over. I think it's an appropriate way to go.
But isn't that case still in the Michigan Supreme Court down for a hearing on Brighton Township, which you just mentioned, is basically the same thing?
Well, it's similar that they're filing an appeal. It's different that it's a different classification of property. So hotels have already gone through some of this review process. Nothing's been challenged to the Supreme Court of Michigan for hotels. The big box is being challenged. But the state tax tribunal has been awarding almost at 100% clip to these cases.
Well, the advantage that we have of this agreement is we're actually going to be getting more than the assessed value than what they would probably get if they went to the tax tribunal. It would probably be lowered further than what they're looking to lower it now. The agreement has a higher number. So
Well, if I have an issue with my taxes, I have to go to the Board of Review in March.
They did, and the Board of Review told them to get an appraisal, and that their step was to go to the tax tribunal, which is the same step you would go through. The difference is that under cases with hotels, they've been getting awarded at a pretty much 100% clip.
Well, I see they've come up with 3 examples here as to what they are selling for. And I have to totally, I'm not a tax assessor, don't get me wrong here, but I have to totally disagree with them matching this place up with the one down by Bark River, which sold for a ridiculous fee. But I mean, that was I can't see where the two are comparison, except that one sold and maybe this one is for sale.
And the tax tribunal is not going to look at the specifics of it, they're going to look at just the sales.
What he did is he took comparables in the area. There may have only been 3 or 4 that he could use, so that's the best he could do.
Yeah, well, maybe it's the best he could do, but that was a poor example. I feel it was a poor example.
All I'm saying to you is you can reject it, but I think at the end of the day, after we go through this whole process, maybe we have to go down to Lansing, I don't know, to argue the case. I think we're about coming out about where we are right now.
Now, with the box stores, the county's gonna, if they win, the county's gonna have to pay them back, right, for what they paid for the last few years?
I'm not aware.
Didn't I read that someplace?
If they've already appealed,
I read the same thing, but I don't know for sure. I did read the same thing.
Yeah,
and when we
where
say
it was
Home
gonna,
Depot,
they were gonna take a hit for $300 and some thousand if everything goes their way, that they'd have to pay back to Home Depot. Where here, he's just asking for the 1 year, what he's due this year, basically.
when we say Home Depot in this memo, he's not just referring to the one in Iron Mountain or Brady Township. He's talking about statewide,
Right, I realize that.
Menards and all these places.
Lowe's.
I think it's a good compromise, we want to support the businesses in the area, and he's willing to meet us in the middle, at least on this, and work with us. So I don't like seeing the lost tax revenue, but
But it is a good compromise.
I think it's
I
a good
agree with you,
compromise.
Chris.
It is.
Basically, how much are we losing here, Jeremy?
It's going from 1.29 million to 700,000 in taxable value. I don't know the,
What's the taxes?
On
38,000?
Jim's memo, the second
It's like
page,
$4,000.
he lays out the dollar figures.
okay. City tax, $4,030.77. DDA is $1,244.
What did it start with? It's 1,200?
No, we didn't.
The administration fee is $173 in loss, and then county road millage, $147 in loss.
Loss.
So the city would lose about $4,000, the DDA, $1,250.
Does this affect the rest of our tax structure in any way, Rick?
No, this is specific to a piece of property.
It's just to this piece.
I mean, when you look at the percentage, I mean, their tax bill for this past year is $38,000.
Would you compensate for this, Mayor?
Are we setting any kind of precedent by,
I think the precedent's already set. You know, from previous cases, that's where that's where actually they started from. Because this has been happening now. This won't be the first, this is not gonna be the first one.
but if another business, I'm not saying not a hotel, but another business comes and says, hey, why?
Well,
Get
they
my
have to come, see, what they do, they have to come with comparables, they have to come with the paperwork. It just happens at hotels, and I think a lot of it is because of the economy, but I think it's because the hotels are feeling extremely bitten by this economy, and so the property values have dropped dramatically, especially in the resale. I mean, the big box argument is different. It's a totally different argument. It's not a resale argument. Theirs is on a use argument. They're actually reclassifying a use. That's why it's going to the Supreme Court. That's why we've been fighting it statewide. Municipalities have been fighting it because they're actually reclassifying the use. Hotels are strictly based on resale, strictly based on, hey, maybe 5-10 years ago when the market was, or 10 years ago plus when the market was really moving, the assessment and the sale was appropriate. But right now, they're just not selling, and so
I remember reading in your someplace, Ray, that there's just too many hotels in the area for the population. And I know when Express went in up there, everybody was saying, why do they need such a big place here when the other ones aren't even full? And that's part of why they're selling for what they are, because there's, like anything else, there's a glut of them, and there's nobody to fill them, because I assume the economy. And that's why the price on all these motels are down. You can see what some of them sold for.
I think this will be good. It'll help a local business, help them stay open.
I agree.
And in the future, it may go up in value because hopefully the state park will become a reality, and that'll increase the tourism in the area and increase the room usage. So this may reverse itself.
I think everybody would be happy if it did. I think they'd be thrilled if they could have usage to cover that. Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, I'm looking for a motion.
Make a motion that we approve resolution 2014-24.
I'll support. Motion made by George, supported by myself. Roll call.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Ball?
Yeah.
Mr. Oja?
Yes. Next on the agenda, approval Oak Crest Golf Course cart purchase. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This has been pretty much an annual expenditure at our golf course. We try to purchase a couple of golf carts a year to try and roll out some of those older carts. And these are city-owned carts. They're the ones that we use for rental. Somebody comes in. And you see the recommendation or the request from Ryan Gordon, our golf pro, requesting the purchase of one cart this year. He does want to try and get the fleet up from 18. He said during the summer, pretty much every Saturday is a peak, and so he's working around trying to borrow carts, and because our 18 are going out, plus he needs additional ones. So he feels like his fleet is getting to the point where, you know, and rather than trade them in, and that they're so dilapidated that he's going to trade them in, he'd like to go this year. He just add a cart. He does want to, or he does requesting that some of the extra monies that we have in the budget, that we purchase new seats, because that's probably one of the biggest thing that happens, being outside all day in the sun. The seats take a pretty good beating. So we do appropriate $8,000 a year for carts, for like 2 carts, which does include for the trade-ins, but he's asking to purchase 1 cart at $4,559, and then 11 new seats, and those new seats are roughly $130 a piece. So the total would come to $5,989.
Okay, any questions?
Mr. Anderson, what's the chance of delaying this till next year, till they're on their own?
Well, they're not gonna be on their own next year, but, I mean, we talked about 2017 before. I mean, the bond payment's gonna be paid off next year, but we still have some requirements that we're not gonna be able to just hand it over.
How many more years are we looking for that?
2017 is a good year to be looking at that.
3 years?
Yeah.
Any
It
questions?
is a budgeted item. So,
Any questions or comments, otherwise a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the purchase of a new golf cart, 11 new seats to be from Meyer Enterprises for a price not to exceed $5,989.
Support.
Motion made by Chris, supported by Dr. Hayes. Roll call.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gotstein?
Yes.
Mr. Ball?
No.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
No.
Okay, last thing on the agenda is approval, Marion Park picnic table maintenance. Mr. Anderson.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Zambon Decorating is in the process of working our pavilion. A request came up to have them give us a quote to also take care of the 10 picnic tables at the park. It would be basically the same process. They gave us a quote not to exceed $1,250, additional to strip sand and stain the 10 picnic tables.
Have there been questions or complaints about the tables out there from anybody using them?
Nobody's ever directly complained to me from a use standpoint, like, oh, the tables are terrible. But when you go out there and look at them, these are not just a normal picnic table. These have the large metal legs. They're about twice as long as a normal table. They're the ones that were built specially just for underneath that pavilion. And everything's peeling off of them and stuff. And if we don't address it and repair it, the wood's going to go, and then we'll have to replace the wood at some point. So
Are they just gonna restain them, Joe, or
strip them, sand them, and then restain them.
no sealer?
The
Is that what
the
got us in
stain has
trouble?
a sealer in it.
Stain, oh,
No, they're not going to varnish like they were before, no. It'll just be a stain sealer combination for wood, so it breathes.
I assume the same stuff that they're using on a building, right?
Yeah, same color, I would assume. I picked the color out for the building. I didn't specify a special color for the picnic tables.
Has Parks and Rec heard this yet?
They haven't. This just came up this past week.
Yeah, they're on site right now. And it
did
was
come
brought to
from
my
one of the Parks and
attention,
Rec members.
yeah, it was brought to my attention they were bad, so went out there and met with them. And
Will they
asked
finish
them.
by week's end?
That I do not know. I don't know the ending date. You're not privy to any information, Tricia, beyond what I know? Okay.
I know for the pavilion, They did know when the events were scheduled out there, so if there was something scheduled, they were gonna pull the equipment out
Yeah.
and have it available to use that for that weekend. Okay,
I'll make a motion that we approve the $1,250 for the additional sandblasting and staining for picnic tables.
Support.
motion made by George, supported by Lee. Roll call.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Ball?
Yeah.
Mr. Ocha?
Yes.
Mr. Menigini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
And that's our business this evening, ladies and gentlemen. Does anyone from the audience wish to address the council on any subject? If you do, please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. You'll have 5 minutes.
Hi, my name is Jean Bradford, 2465 Travis Farm Road. I just have a couple of questions. A year or so ago, the taxes, I may be wrong, but the taxes in Third Ward, were they lowered so people would improve their buildings,
No, that was a
their
proposal.
houses?
That was a proposal that was floated, gosh, 4 or 5 years ago. That was under a state program called the Neighborhood Enterprise Zone, but that was never put forward.
That never came about?
The kind of group that was running it was through a thing called Vision 2020. That was
Okay.
kind of pushing it. And that was a state program as well. The state ended that program, so nothing ever moved forward after that.
Okay. Is there any possibility that the city of Norway will review the property tax on all individuals? Because all of our properties have probably decreased in value.
Well, I mean, you could do a reappraisal. They call it a citywide reappraisal. I know Iron Mountain went through it. It was quite controversial, mainly because of the cost of it. It is a pretty big undertaking. But one of the things that I think some of the people, it's hard to understand is that you have a difference between state equalized value and assessed value, or taxable value. And under the Michigan law, your property taxable value can only go up by the lesser of 2.5% or the cost of living. And over time, since the mid-90s, early 90s, when that law was put in place, your actual SEV, which is uncapped, is higher than your taxable value. So even though the SEV is coming down, your taxable value is still going up. We receive those comments every single year when the tax bills go out. And so your curve is actually, your taxable value still isn't reaching your state equalized value. So even if we went through that whole reassessment, it might bring it down to the taxable value, and it might not, because there's that difference.
So the short answer is no. At this time, we're not considering doing a citywide reassessment.
Okay. Do you know how Iron Mountains came out?
I don't know.
I don't know. I know that they discontinued it, and then they brought it forward, and I've never heard the results of it, to be honest with you.
Okay. Then my next comment was, I think a couple meetings ago you mentioned about you were going to do some work on Kimberly Road. I was on Kimberly Road the other day. What are you going to be doing to that road?
On August 15th, the contractor's supposed to be starting. What they're going to be doing is a thing called a chip seal. It's a mixture of aggregate and like a raw bonding compound, a rubbering, like a road tar kind of. It's hard for me to explain. I don't know the exact.
understand.
And it gets mixed together and spread across the road, putting a coat on the top of the road of this aggregate and bonding.
You feel that road absolutely needs that? I mean, it
Right
looked like
now-
a pretty decent road to me.
That's why we're doing that right now. It's at the point right now where it needs maintenance activity that will keep it from deteriorating to needing to be reconstructed. We can spend far less in doing the chip seal than it would take to reconstruct that road, and it'll add 5 to 10 years onto that road. It'll keep it at a good condition. It'll keep us from having to do that later.
And do the trucks use that road going into the mill?
I would imagine they do. I'm rarely on that road myself, so I can't say for sure, but I would imagine they do.
They have been using it because the highway has that highway work.
Correct.
So I know that in talking with Verso about their truck traffic and their truckers, they prefer not to use Kimberly Road, but with highway work, they've been using it more this last month.
And will the highway work in Kimberly Road conflict?
No.
When is the highway going to be done?
I don't know what the MDOT's exact schedule is when they'll be done, probably by Labor Day, somewhere around the end of August. That Kimberly Road is designed for the truck traffic, and it is part of the route when we talk about truck routes. So, I mean, it's something that we have to look at, especially towards the ends like US 8 and in Kimberly Road where it intersects.
Right.
We'll have to deal with the access there, but I know that the chip sealing is done on both heavy traffic, truck traffic routes and on residential routes, rural residential type routes.
Okay. And then that property on Kimberly Road that the city bought, what's the status on that? It was it was an investment.
The Dave Anderson property?
Spring Valley Ranch or whatever it was.
Right now, we're looking at possibility of trying to cut in a road so that there's better access to it. And then it'll eventually, we're ideally trying to sell it, and it's on the market now to sell. It's hard to sell though some of the back lots of it because it doesn't have, there's no road access into it. So right now, it's on our DPW plan to cut in, to rough in a road, but it's going to be sold as people come forward who want to buy the pieces, we're going to sell it.
5-acre lots?
Well, there's multiple different sizes. There's a 6-acre lot, there's a 9-acre lot, there's actually a 21-acre lot, which we're going to take and review. Might be some better lot splits that we have to do. So I would say at least 5 to 10 is a minimum, and then it could go up to 12.
That's in rural residential as well, so that would be at least a 5-acre lot.
Right.
Is that map available?
Yes, we have the map, but Joe and I just went over it again today. What we want to do is to give you guys another option, because we're looking at possibly changing the original designation, because that was how Dave had split it out, and we think that there might be a better way to split it. So we do have the survey that Dave had
I've
done.
never seen it, that's why I asked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Okay.
what you-
I have a copy of the proposed lot that Anderson did in my truck, and then a marked up one that Ray and I worked on this morning of a vision
Good,
of
thank you.
trying to improve it.
Does anyone else wish to address the council? Okay, Chris.
Nothing tonight?
George.
First of all, Tricia, I had a note here on that Spring Valley. I'd like to, that $1,259.30
Okay.
that I do on every that payment. I've got a few things. First of all, Daryl, I want to apologize for maybe the misunderstanding over the last meeting on that toilet that was out in the Marion Park that was plugged. Daryl come up to me and told me that toilet was cleaned at 5 o'clock in the morning. And my point, I'm sorry, Daryl, that he came out this way, but my point to Joe was to ask if the toilets would be maintained during the weekend. I was totally unaware that they were. And that was the point I was trying to make. So, and now I see that there's a lot of other problems with that toilet out there, I'm assuming.
We're looking at
Tank
changing
and the whole
out the
works.
toilets, George. The toilets, they're older style, and
Right.
you have to hold the handle down through the whole flush cycle to get it to properly flush. So I haven't received the pricing yet, but I went into Law Foams and talked to them about this toilet that they call the turbo flush. It's got an air bladder or a water bladder that blows up, and then it gives it an extra boost when you hit the lever, and getting pricing on that and replacing those toilets with that type of a toilet. And then we were also looking at we located the septic tank. Now we have to locate the lid and get that septic tank pumped and cleaned out. I'd far as I know, that's never been done unless somebody else has knowledge of it. At least in the 12 years I've been here, it's never been pumped, so.
Joe, the sheet that you give us too here in our packet,
Your, the worksheet?
that worksheet,
Yeah,
I kind of skimmed through it, and outside of the first 3 or 4 items up on top, US 2 and Saginaw Street repair, US 2 and US 8 Street repair, the next bunch, all the way down, appears to me that all this work is being done over on the south side of town. I guess my question, why are we spending time over on that side of town if 2 years from now, next year, presumably, that all this curbs, gutters, water, sewer
What-
is all gonna be done?
what you're looking at are the areas that we dug up, the road, we actually removed the asphalt, and it's gravel right now. And many of them are on Iron Street on the south side, there's some on Mine Street, there's a couple on the end of Norway Street that are in that list, all to be repaired. And when I say repair them, I'm not gonna come in there with hot mix and all that. I just have to get the crew over there, take the gravel out and put some cold mix in it and temporarily patch it till the project comes on. Because the people in those areas are complaining about the gravel on the roads.
Okay,
That's what those are. That's just a cold mix patch that I'm,
okay.
proposing to do.
If necessary, I would almost put those as a little lower priority, in your own personal prioritizing.
Yeah.
Because they can drive on it now. Gravel's not the ideal situation. It's nice when it gets changed out, but
There's some sidewalk repair in some of these too, because we had to cut through the sidewalk.
Okay, that kind of answered some of that stuff. I would still, any word on our boulevards? Have we got any place? I don't see that on our sheet here. Are we making any headway here? Is this something that we're going to?
Yeah, I was going to bring it up during my comments, but I'll talk about it now since you've asked. Aspen is finished. I went all the way through town from west to east and went up on the north side of town and went through and removed all the dead trees. And now the stump grinder's been out approximately on 4 different occasions when we've had time to take it out. We've ground 27 stumps. We're averaging, one day we got 17, but they were smaller stumps. The average size tree that's, like a 30-inch base, we can do about 7 of those a day. And then I have the summer help going through and cleaning up the piles of debris from the stump grinder and filling in the holes with topsoil. And then they're also, after the wood gets picked up, they're also raking and the divots in the boulevards, they're filling those with topsoil and putting grass seed on them. And we've removed approximately 133 trees in this process. So it's an ongoing process. It's not something that's going to be done next week. We get at it. I have the kids working on it every day to pick this stuff up. So you will see them with the 1-ton truck going around and cleaning everything up.
I know too with that, Joe, there was some issues some people had with why did their tree go and it wasn't dead. The ones that we chose to cut were all at least half dead.
Yes.
And progressing further. And while we had aspen here, it was better to take them out now rather than wait until they're a problem and take them out later, because they were going to become a problem.
Yes, that was my assessment of how I judged whether or not. At the end of all the completely dead ones, throughout this whole process, residences were calling me and saying, well, what about this tree? What about that I didn't mark, And then when we got done through with all the dead ones, I said, okay, well, now let's go back and address the half-dead, partially dead type trees and get those out before they become a problem. So yes, there were quite a few of those removed right at the end of the process.
Also, Joe, our summer help here that we're getting, there's nothing that I hate worse going someplace that somebody comes up and tells you how good our summer help is. I went down to get some berries this past weekend, and a couple come up to me and they said, "Boy, you really got some nice summer help this summer." I said, "Why is that?" Well, they said, "One's out working and two's in the cab sleeping." You know, I understand and I realize that these people are hard to supervise, but they should be told right on the spot, if they're caught sleeping, they're done.
George, they were told that. I meet with every kid before I hire them.
It's just
It's
just a
just-
shame.
You know, I can't be every single spot.
No, I know this, but
And,
I'm,
you know, when
Joe,
they-
I'm telling you this because this is what I hear out on the street. And if them kids have to be told every day when they leave the shop, if you're caught sleeping, you're done, don't even come back tomorrow. I mean, there's not more embarrassing, and Lee, you run into it as often as I do. I mean, it's just, you know, you try to do things to help these kids out and give them a start for college and everything. And they just don't, they don't understand it.
Have to lean on your foreman a little more, just,
that was brought to my attention last Friday.
okay.
I was dealing with the problem, I was monitoring where they're going, and I was gonna be checking it personally. I was doing it on the QT, because if they were caught sleeping again, they were gonna be immediately fired. So,
No, well, I mean, it's just a shame, you know, that how many times you have to remind these kids that their job's at stake on some of this stuff.
It's work ethic, George, and I'm sorry, there's just, the young kids nowadays don't have the work ethic of our age.
Well, I know it, Lee, but that's no excuse.
No, it isn't.
I guess maybe you have to make examples here to get rid of a few in order to.
I was
to
planning
go
on
home.
doing that, but now they probably will hear about it. And catching them would be hard.
That's kind of good, though, because if they hear about it, they
Yeah,
don't do it.
and they won't do
solves
it
the
anymore,
problem.
so it's problem solved, so.
Okay, when I mentioned the boulevard, Joe, I meant pulling the boulevards along the highway and US 8.
I wrote that
Pulling
on
them
here.
crowns off and,
I wrote that on here. I knew it, I kind of figured that's what you
Yeah.
were referring to.
okay.
So,
Oh,
yeah, I
okay.
got
I
it.
just,
Yeah.
I want to keep you, I want to stay on top of this. I think it will help improve the looks of the city a heck of a lot by doing something with it.
I know along the US 2 ones, at least on the Iron Mountain side of town, we're looking at doing a project through DDA.
Now, just more so over on this side, Jerry.
Yeah, I know where
And
he's
US
talking
8 too,
about.
it
Yeah.
really is terrible. But the US 2, I mean, US 8, you've got some darn many big stumps, trees there, and you don't have much of a boulevard. It's just a bad situation going down there. It's too bad that when they redid that, they didn't pull all them trees out of there.
So I didn't put that on the list, removing
Yeah,
the
it's not,
dirt?
Ray penciled it in, so it's on.
Okay, all right.
I guess that's it.
Hey, Dr. Hayes.
Well, I had some complaining to me about the summer help as well. I was gonna make a comment on the trees down at the golf course. Apparently, Lee didn't think they were growing well, and I see we put fertilizer spikes. I think part of the problem might be that the soil down that area is all sand, and some types of trees aren't gonna grow well in sand, no matter how many spikes you put, so we have to match the soil type with the tree.
Jack pine grow pretty good in the sand.
Right, they would, and that's one tree that would. But some trees just are not gonna grow well down there. And so planting them and spiking them, I don't think is gonna do any good. But neither here nor there. I wondered if we have a total cost on the winter project yet. I know we're not all done with that because we've got big patches on the highway yet. And that's gonna be a major expense. And my first question is there any sign of any help from the state with these extraordinary costs that we've got?
Joe, if I remember right, our total cost was somewhere in the range of $250,000, 225. Go ahead.
370 and some change, 370,000 is what the total was.
We submitted the report to the Michigan State Police. The Michigan State Police is currently handling, well, we submitted it through our county emergency management, and they submitted it to the Michigan State Police. Again, the MSP is handling the effort for FEMA, and we got notice back, about a week and a half ago, that they rejected pretty much across the board, not in Norway, but Iron Mountain, Kingsford, Writing, a number of communities, a number of counties. They gave us a new date and said that we were missing backup, we were missing, we changed headings on a form, which, we looked at it and we're like, I don't know, that it was pretty sketchy on how they're evaluating it. So we huddled up and resubmitted. My take is that I feel like they're kind of stalling and looking for reasons not to provide it, not to approve it. But we're going to do whatever we can. We're not going to just give up. I think they want us to just give up. We're not going to give up. We'll keep submitting it, but we'll still have to press forward. So that's where we're at right now.
And talking with our county emergency manager, they wanted to commend the city staff as to how quickly and how thoroughly they got them all the backup and got them everything they needed for that resubmission. They had just told me they wanted to really commend the city staff for really getting on it quick and getting it done.
Yeah, we've been working hard.
Now, the other question I had was then, are we going to find some equipment where we can do some of this thawing ourselves, since city workers have to come out? I think it's good that we give a local business, but when we're spending $29,000, that's going to buy a fairly decent piece of equipment, I would think, that the city ought to be able to do that on their own.
Yeah, we have that in our plans. It's in our budget for this coming up year. So
that is being looked at.
that's been definitely looked at.
Yeah, it's a budgeted item now.
That's the questions I had.
Lee?
Well, everything was pretty much, all the questions I had were pretty much covered.
Go ahead.
Joe, I'd like to there's one thing that irritates me the last 3 weeks terrible is watching these tractors go up and down the street here for the last 3 weeks picking up these stumps. And I want to get an actual count on money and time, how much this is costing the city. I disapprove 100% the way we went about this thing. There's much better ways and a lot cheaper ways that we could have went to get this wood in. So I'd like to get a count on that to find out how much and do some comparing here. So,
I have one other comment. I'd like to respond to Gene Bradford's comment that we did this for investment. We did not purchase the property from Anderson as an investment. We did it so we could annex a good deal of land, including our golf course and our Marion Park. We made that purchase, and I think that allowed us to annex a big area into the city where our city police can patrol the area. And it may not mean much difference in the near future, but in the long run, I think it's going to make a tremendous difference to the city. If we hadn't purchased that, we wouldn't have been able to annex all that other property on our south border into the city. And someday that's going to be developed out there. Again, it may not be in our lifetime or in the immediate future, but I think in the long run, that's one of the most significant things that this council has done, is to buy that and annex all that land into the city.
Does the city pay taxes on their city-owned property?
No. But once we sell the property, then the new owners would pay taxes. Whereas if we hadn't made that purchase and the development went in, all those taxes would go to the township. So that's why we purchased it. And so I think it was an essential and a very good thing that the city did.
Well, we know there were a couple of people on the council that disagreed with that purchase.
I wasn't on the council when they bought that Jeep.
And I mean, hopefully it will be a good investment. And I appreciate you explaining that to me.
So, and it's a long-term type of thing. But we have to think of the future. We can't just think of our own, our own individual needs right now. We have to think of what's best for the city in the long run, and I think there's no doubt in my mind that that was one of the most significant things that we've done.
The only thing I was looking forward to, working with TCR now long-term with our dam projects. We've got a couple of projects now we're working with you on, and I just look forward to working with you, continuing going forward. Other than that, I got nothing else. Joe,
I have nothing further.
Mary, Tricia, Jay,
No, nothing, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Ray.
Yeah, I got a couple things. Just comments from the last meeting. There's a couple comments that were brought up. I know general public doesn't sometimes get the response, because I do put this all in memo form, but I think there's a few of these things that were brought up that would probably be good to just let you guys know. There was a question at the last meeting about some surveying that was done on County Road 577. That was for that mine pit that's on the east side of town. Apparently, in the tax records or in the survey records, maybe the old plats, the 577 must turn in Vulcan, go through Vulcan, and then come up behind and go up back behind the ski hill. So, because it's at that pit that next to that road that goes up back up almost 8th Avenue. So it's that east end pit. So that's why Jeremy put that 577 on the note. So, the Norway fire tower, that was just we have that split 3 ways between fire, police, and the ambulance. That was a miscoding. So the fire had 2 shares of that. So we got that coded correctly. And then, of course, we had to work on the pumps over at the Argonne pump, at 25 horse. I think that's all I can see. That was real. Other stuff was other items were already discussed at the meeting. So that's all I have.
Look for a motion to adjourn.
Ray, hold it, you gotta mention something about the 125-year
Oh yeah, the Questquicentennial.
Quicentennial, whatever that is.
Questquicentennial. I looked that up, so we had the correct term. Yeah, I've been asking for a couple months now, mainly because, Niagara had such a nice event over in their community just a few weeks ago, and, we followed by a couple years for our 125th, and so I was throwing this out to different groups, and, it's not too early to start. And so I have been receiving a few names, but it was brought forth that the baseball group would like to head the effort as a kind of like a Marion Park nonprofit, and really raise money to help out different things that's going on out at Marion Park. And so we would, from my perspective, I really like the idea of a group taking charge, and encourage anybody that is interested in participating, to contact City Hall. I don't know if you had anything else on that.
No, that's all.
Okay.
Now I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Motion made by Lee, supported by Chris. Roll call.
Mr. Ball? Yep. Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menigini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Hang on.